So I finally saw the Tomorrow War. I was gonna see it sooner, and I was gonna get this review out to you like a couple weeks ago, like I said in my earlier review. But I was going on a lot of vacations and stuff, and then a bunch of other movies came out that I reviewed. So this review is gonna be late, but enjoy them nonetheless. The Tomorrow War was released nearly a month ago, and I finally saw it. It stars Chris Pratt, J.K. Simmons, Sam Richardson, and a bunch more people. This review will contain some spoilers, but not as much as usual videos because there isn't a whole lot to spoil in this video. But still, if you want to watch the movie, it's on Prime Video, and then come back. So starting off the bat, let's talk about the concept or story. The concept and story is pretty brilliant. It's basically about a bunch of people being drafted into a future war because all the humans in the future are dying and they have to fight against a bunch of aliens. That's pretty cool. It does sound kind of generic when you think about it a bit more, but the general idea is pretty unique and it's not something you'd regularly see. But unfortunately, the way they executed it was not good. The movie seems like it's pretty much all over the place and not really structured, and also that it feels like like two different movies merged into one. First movie is Chris Pratt is trying to go into the future, stop the war from happening, and then the second half is Chris Pratt trying to basically find the aliens and kill them, and it makes the movie feel different. Also, the way they handled the characters and stuff wasn't very good. But let's talk about the aliens first. The aliens in here are really cool. They're really creepy and they come off as ruthless and they will kill you if you let them. But then the third act kind of destroys it, and basically all the aliens are doing is fighting against humans, and humans are like stabbing them, and it doesn't really feel like the aliens were used right in that type of story. Another bad thing about this movie is the characters. Now, all the characters are really charming and entertaining, and you do kind of feel for them, but they're not really standouts. Even Chris Pratt. Everyone does a good job with what they have, but the movie doesn't really focus on them enough for you to get a whole lot invested in them. But I will say that you don't hate anybody, but still, a main element in this movie is characters getting sucked into a war that have families, and they're trying to survive with them, but they don't really seem to do anything with that story other than establishing it. So this movie is basically separated into thirds, and each one honestly gets worse as it goes on. First third is really good and strong. It basically takes like a slow burn approach to this whole concept of humans getting drafted into the future war. And even though it does take a while for them to get into the actual war, it doesn't really bore you. And there's not really one scene in here that you will find unnecessary. It just feels like each scene was necessary to grow on the movie. But then the second half gets less interesting as it goes on. The first chunk of it is honestly really entertaining, and you're invested in the characters because they're just coming face to face with the aliens for the first time. But then the second act gets really slow and boring. After they meet the aliens, the second act is basically built on them trying to capture the mother alien and trying to create like this thing that will stop the aliens from existing. But it doesn't really seem necessary to the plot considering they don't use it in the third act. And it feels like 40 minutes were just wasted for no reason. And even though the second act isn't very good, the third act is even worse. Because it feels like slowly as the third act went on, the movie was slowly getting destroyed. And the first two acts that it was built on meant nothing to the story. So basically the third act is Chris Pratt and his dad going to find the aliens because they turned out to be here all along, and blowing them up and killing them. And even though going to the war was necessary, it didn't really feel like it, because what was the point of going into the war when someone could have just thought maybe the aliens were here the whole time, and then they could have just gone to find them and blow them up. So the third act doesn't really mean much in context of the first two, and that's kind of disappointing. This movie is basically like a shoot 'em up story, and once you accept that it gets a bit better, because you know what to expect, and then you just get entertained when the humans are just shooting up the aliens, and it's pretty entertaining to just see that part of the story be throughout the movie. And I think the action is probably the best part of the movie, because there's not a really dull scene in here. So the overall emotion was executed pretty good. The main story is about Chris Pratt going to the war, and he has to get back to his family. He basically promises that. And then he meets his daughter in the future, and she basically says that she left him, and then a couple of years after that, he died in a car crash. So then Chris Pratt learns to love for his family again. That part was pretty cool. In the end, The Tomorrow War is a perfectly fun action movie that you will have a good time with if you consider it a shoot 'em up movie. But if you go in expecting it to be somewhat of a drama, you might be disappointed, because after the first act, the movie doesn't really focus on it that much. But in the end, I do think this movie is a good time, but I think that the movie probably could have been trimmed down to 1 hour and 45 minutes instead of 2 hours and 20 minutes. But in the end, I'm going to give The Tomorrow War a 7 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching me for over a month. That's pretty crazy. I'm going to have a lot more videos coming up in August, including my review of Part 1 of Masters of the Universe Revelation, Jungle Cruise, and I'm also going to be starting my series of James Bond reviews, and a lot more, so look forward to that. Also, you can check out my second channel, Nerd Nation Vlogs, in the description. Oh, bye!